Jumbo, Gina, Ni, Jamie, Kutoka, Florida. Welcome to the SWEATUATIONSHIP.
Welcome to the SWEATUATIONSHIP. Karibu sana. Welcome to Let's Talk About Sweat. And today we have a guest. This is 2021. I know it's been a while ever since we did this sweat conversation. And like I always say, it's about to get sweaty up in here. So today, my guest, how we connected with my guest was through Instagram. So this is what happened. I shared a post and she liked it. And the thing is, we happen to follow the same person. Kristen Hernandez, by the way, shout out to you.
Yes, thank you.
Kristen, that she, I think I sent a direct message to her and she replied. Because I always ask, it's a request. Would you be interested to talk about your experiences with hyperhidrosis? I've sent tons, and for this year, we've received one. So without further ado, I will let our guest introduce herself. So over to you.
Hello, my name is Jamie. I'm 27 years old and I've been living with hyperhidrosis since elementary school. I have primary hyperhidrosis.
Wow. Jamie, welcome to the SWEATUATIONSHIP. Karibu sana. And it's an honor to have you on board. And this is the first conversation for 2021. So, it's progress for us, and it's also a blessing. So welcome to the family. Welcome to the hyperhidrosis, the sweat family. So, Jamie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Jamie?
Who is Jamie? All right. So I realized in elementary school that I sweat more than other people, but it wasn't too bad. Like I still was able to live pretty normal. And then as I got older and hit puberty is when everything got worse. So I think it was about 6th grade was when I began to wear jackets and hoodies and everything to cover the sweat stains, because back then I didn't know that I could just wear black and no one would really notice any of the sweat marks, which probably would have saved me a lot of hassle growing up. But the hoodies and everything is something that I became really dependent on because I live in Florida, so it is very hot and humid here all the time. And then, you're wearing a hoodie in 90-degree weather and then people are still looking at you like you're crazy. It's like there's no happy medium, right? But I've learned recently, actually with Christina, I found some other people who were sending out like tips and tricks and life hacks for hyperhidrosis. So a lot of those I've picked up on, and I feel like those have helped me a lot. Like one of the biggest ones are these gloves. Someone recommended cotton gloves. And for some reason, I don't know how, it seems so obvious, but I never even thought about it. Like I think it's very convenient because I have an office job right now. So I do a lot of writing, typing, phone calls, like proposals. And it got very frustrating for me trying just to do those, what seem like very simple things, because you could barely hold the pencil, you're sweating through the paper, and then I would pass it off to someone else to check over. And then you're like, it's like dripping wet. The paper is like folded. It's like ripping. And you're like, here you go. There's always like those awkward encounters.
Well, how was your school life with hyperhidrosis? You can just explain to us what are some of the challenges that you faced in school and especially in high school?
The biggest challenges were in-class assignments because, again, I was trying not to put my hand on the paper so it wouldn't be wet. I found it, I used to wear like a hooded sweatshirt and I would pull it to where my hands went through the armholes. So like the end of the hoodie rested on like my palms. So it kind of helped me not put my palm completely on the paper. I think my high school experience, I went to a very small high school and I feel like it made it a lot easier. I feel like I didn't have as difficult as challenges as other people had throughout high school with like the larger scenarios. I feel like they have, you know, the cliques and everything where teenagers are like the most brutal, where they have no mercy. And I think going to a smaller school setting helped me a lot. I don't think my experience was nearly as bad as it could have been. I was close with all of them. There was about 100 kids like in my grade level, and we were in the same class with the same people basically from 9th grade through 12th grade. And then, you know, when you get a little bit more comfortable with people, it makes it so sometimes you don't sweat as much when you're comfortable. So I think my high school experience, other than like the writing and presentations and stuff like that, it wasn't like the bullying and making fun of end. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. And in these groups that I'm in now, like since coming across and finding other people with this condition, I've read like their stories, and it really helps you see things from a different perspective, that as bad as you thought you had it, like someone always has it worse. So I don't want to make mine seem worse.
Are you the only one in your family with hyperhidrosis?
As far as I know, yes. Since I've came out and open about it, I have not had anyone in my family reach out and be like, hey, like I have this too. Like I'm probably where you got it from, but no, I have not met anyone yet.
And do you have siblings?
Oh, I think my son might possibly have it, but I think he's still a little too young. But I do notice in some instances where he seems to be a little bit more sweaty than usual.
And do you have siblings?
Yes, I have 3 sisters and none of them have anything like not even just a little bit. Like they're flip-flops and bright colored t-shirts kind of girls.
And growing up around them, you know, with your siblings, how was the interaction between you, your parents? How was the family interaction, especially knowing that you have excessive sweating? Was there any kind of negative treatment, or they offered more support and love? I mean, how was it for you?
To be honest, I didn't even tell my parents about it until I was like way older. It was one of those things, I was so embarrassed by it that like, I don't know why I never thought to say something to my parents, and maybe they might be able to help find some kind of treatment for me or something to help me through it, or at least just support me mentally. But I told them when I got older. My sisters, I feel like they knew that I sweat more than they did, but didn't really think like too much of it. I think the best examples I can think of when they really like noticed it was we got like the PlayStation everything when we were growing up. So when we would play games and pass the controller, I'm like trying to dry it on my shirt in between turns to pass it to the next person, because I'll get in like, why is the controller all sweaty? And you're like, who had it? I don't know. But I didn't have any kind of negative treatment from them. To be honest, like I said, they didn't even really notice.
You know, the reason why I tend to ask, you know, the experiences of, you know, especially surrounding the family unit, a lot of us who have this condition, we rarely receive support from those who are immediate to us. I'm talking about the parents, your siblings, or even your cousins, the family unit. And there's a term, thanks to Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya, we have a term for that. It's known as immediate support system. And the support system that they give is very therapeutic. And quite a number of us who have this condition, we rarely receive this support. So for your family, I think, it's interesting. It's rather interesting that they didn't, treat you any or see you any less. But that's not the case to some of us. So it's interesting for me. I think it's very interesting. And the immediate support system doesn't only, it extends to even a family, it extends to friends, employers, and the people around your circle. So when the immediate support system gives you that therapeutic support and that foundation, because they're also that they are more of a cornerstone, it doesn't matter what you face out there. At the end of the day, you have people that love you and they believe in you, and they're always telling you, or rather they speak words and life to you, compared to people out there that are mean and saying just things for the, to get through you. They don't understand what you're going through, right? So
no, I agree on that. My boyfriend has been my biggest support system. Him and I have been together since we were teenagers. And like I said before, usually teenagers are the most brutal. And I remember when we first started liking each other, and like I was so afraid to hold his hand and everything. So I felt like the only way I could is if I told him. I didn't know what it was called back then. So I just told him that my hands sweat all the time. And he was just like, I don't care. And even him telling me that when I was younger didn't change it for how I felt like towards other people, but he was always the one who was like, why do you care? But I don't know. I feel like it bothers me more than it bothers him.
And with hyperhidrosis, we face numerous challenges, and there are also some emotional effects associated with hyperhidrosis. So we're talking of anxiety. Anxiety is common with most of us. It cuts across all of us. It doesn't matter which.
Yeah, I don't even consider that like anything different. It's just like a normal part of life now.
And depression is also another thing that, since hyperhidrosis, it's a daily problem. It's not a 1 day, a 3 day, or you sweat 2 weeks apart. No, it's an everyday problem. And
people think it's just a little sweat.
Exactly.
And
the challenge
I've sent people pictures of my hands with like beads of sweat pooling up on them, and they're like, oh my goodness, like I had no idea. And then I've had people who, when I made my post about my hyperhidrosis, even some people I knew, they're like, oh my goodness, I've had that. And I didn't even know that it was anything. They just accepted it as part of like their normal body.
And have you...
But it is nice to know that other people are out there like us.
We are many, trust me. We are
way more than I ever realized.
Exactly. And the biggest problem, especially on this side of the continent, is the lack of awareness. Because there are those who believe this is just a normal thing. Until now, with time and age, the excessive sweating starts to interfere with their daily activities, relationships, amongst other things. That's when they realize that what I thought was normal, it's actually a medical condition that is affecting every facet of their lives. So, back to the emotional problems. Have you ever faced any? Have you ever been Have you ever faced depression because of hyperhidrosis? Or what are some of the challenges that you may consider, you as Jamie, you may consider that this was an emotional issue that I faced because of my excessive sweating? Was there any?
I think the first one that comes to mind is doing my hair. There's no way of me doing my hair without it being like completely soaked. But again, I came across those gloves and I feel that has been like my biggest life changer, because normally I just can't do anything. You can't opening bottles, turning doorknobs, like I said, holding pencils, just everything that seems so normal and just not like a big thing just to us. Just to be able to have a grip, I feel like, to be able to do anything. Holding your phone. Sometimes I'm holding my phone. My hands are sweating so badly that my keyboard doesn't even pick up that like I'm typing. I can't use like the thumbprint, the print ID, because it doesn't recognize it. I can't wear open-toed shoes. And on the closed-toe shoes, I can't figure out how to make them not stink. I think that's my biggest challenge. Everything else I feel like is easy to, since I came across like your page, Christina's, and some others, just finding little things that other people have tried that has helped make their day-to-day life a little easier. It really does help me as well. And while I might look goofy out with like gloves with polka dots on them, like I can do everything. I could pull my credit card out. I can push my shopping cart through the store when I'm grocery shopping. I feel like it's little things that people overthink and take for granted because it's something that is just so normal to them that we just appreciate a little bit more.
You said you noticed that your son, the chances are he may be having hyperhidrosis. When did you notice?
He started kindergarten this year, so he's been doing more writing and stuff like that. And he's told me, like, when he's writing, it's hard for him to hold his pencil. He does play some video games as well. And I see him, like, putting the controller down and, drying his hands off on his pants. But I feel like he's also still very young, so I don't want to jump to anything. So I figured we'll just keep monitoring him and see how things progress. And I feel like having him and me thinking and worrying about him possibly having it has made me realize that I need to be more open, because I don't want him to grow up feeling like I did, where there was no one to talk to, there was no one to turn to, and this is just how we were stuck. So I always tell him to be the change he wishes to see in the world. So I told him I had to lead by example. So I told him that sharing my story was the first step, and then now doing this is my second step. So if I could help and make anybody else feel just a little bit more comfortable with this condition and realize that even if you look a little different by the way you're dressed, if it helps you cope and do what you need to do in your life, you gotta block out what other people think. I know it's like the hardest thing, because I'll have my gloves on sometimes and I'll be like, ooh, like, should I take these off really quick? And then I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to do whatever the task may be. So I keep them on, but it's like, I gotta keep a pep talk in my head to myself to continue to do it. It's like every day is a new step, but something we have to do. We can't just live in constant fear and embarrassment.
Your son looks up to you, and that is more of a determinant factor to how he's going to deal with the challenges of having hyperhidrosis. That is, if it's going to manifest itself. And compared to ourselves, like even myself, for instance, I come from a family of 4, and I'm the only one with hyperhidrosis. So it's crazy for, let's say, any of my siblings to tell me that I understand what you're going through. No, they don't. See? So for your son, doesn't matter the challenges he's going to face out there, especially in school, when he comes back home and he tells you that, Mom, I feel a certain type of way, and you tell him that you understand his challenges, it's not a lie. It's true. You understand exactly how he feels. And now that you're learning how to cope with excessive sweating, to cope with your sweat, you're going to channel the same to your son. And thank God to the new revised treatments that we have. You know, they revised the old forms of treatments, and now they're pretty good. You know, some of the clinical antiperspirants, we have the antiophoresis machine. All you need to do is be the support system for your son. Be the immediate support system for him, and let him know that, yes, this hyperhidrosis is part of you. This is part of your life. This is what makes you unique and different, you know, from the rest. And that no matter what happens, he can always count on you. That's the most important thing, you know. So I know he's out there, probably joining me right now as I'm speaking to you. Let's talk about relationships. I know most people, they don't like this topic, you know, relationships, because of the experiences that they may have had, you know, down the line. How has it been for you? You talked about your boyfriend that, you know, you knew since you guys were in your teenagehood. How has it been for you? How supportive is he towards, you know, you with the excessive sweating? How supportive is your boyfriend?
Like I said, he cares. It doesn't even bother him at this point. It bothers me more than him. Like, I'll have sweat dripping off my hand and he'll go to like grab it and I'll like try to wipe it off on my pants and he's just like, stop, and he'll grab it and hold it and I'm like, oh, ew. Like, I'm the one that's bothered by it and he's not. He helps me a lot with doing the physical interactions out in public. I don't like doing things like that. So he's really good about doing things that require a lot of hand interaction. He, for the most part, will handle all of that for me because he knows that it's very difficult for me to deal with. There's been instances where my hands are sweating really bad. And I'm sure, you know, like the certain materials that you just can't dry off on. I've been in those scenarios and he'll pull his shirt off and pass it to me so I can dry my hands or something. And to be honest, I don't know what I would do without him.
Oh.
Your dad.
That's good. That's good. And we appreciate him, by the way. And let him know that the hyperhidrosis family said hi, and he's doing a great job.
I definitely will. I thank him almost every day because as a part of the group on Facebook, I see like the struggles everyone posts. And one of the biggest ones is their fear of being in a relationship. And I feel like they're all older. And for older people to not be understanding of that, or them being afraid of them not understanding that, it's hard. Like, I feel so bad for them because it makes me realize how lucky I was to have found Cole so young. Because I could be like those people with that constant worry and that constant fear if I didn't have him.
Well, because not everyone is as understanding as we may want them to be. See, so when you find someone who sees you beyond your sweat, to me that's a plus. That's a blessing, to have someone who sees you beyond your sweat, that they're able to walk with you. They're actually part and parcel of your journey. not everyone is as lucky as you. So when you go through
Mhm.
forums and you see people talk about the fear of being in a relationship, it's because they've been in a relationship and what the other person wasn't as condescending as they may, expect them to be. And the experiences, some of them have been traumatized. It's easy for someone to just get through you just by saying something awful about your sweat. It's easy. They can create a name for you. They have some
Yes, that
acronyms that
was.
they use.
I just recently told my coworkers at work within the past month because, like I said, I'm always working and typing, writing, and I used to have a shirt, like a cotton shirt that I would keep in my desk and I'd pull out on my lap to dry my hands to write. So when they were in my office, I wouldn't work. And they would joke around and be like, "Oh, not working today, Jamie." And in my head, I'm like, I'm just waiting for you to leave so I could dry my hands and actually be able to do something. And I was like, you know what? Like, I love my job. I love my coworkers. I was like, I can't do my job good without wearing my gloves. In order to wear my gloves, I have to tell them why I'm wearing them. And then, of course, you get everybody coming in. They see you wearing gloves. Again, it's 90 degrees outside. Jamie, why are you wearing cold gloves? It's not even cold outside. And I'm like, I'm sweating. And they're like, oh, you're probably sweating because you're wearing gloves. And I'm like, no, I'd be sweating without the gloves too. But now it's just like a normal thing. They're just like, hey, nice gloves. I'm like, hey.
What made you decide to, share your experiences?
Mostly the fact that I had to hide it all the time. I feel like I avoided a lot of social gatherings and scenarios just because I was like, if I can't hide my sweat, I'm not going to your event. So if there's a specific color I have to wear or something like that, like if I don't have a way to cover my sweat or dry my sweat, I'm not going. If there's too much people, I'm not going. So I felt like it would make me feel more comfortable if the people I know and see more regularly than others know about my condition. Then they're not always like, hey, like, why are you sweating? Or, hey, look at your sweat marks. To me, it felt like it made me feel more comfortable and easier to deal with. And like you said, we have to spread awareness. Nobody's going to know that it exists if we don't tell them. I've shared like on someone's post about it and other people will comment and they're like, oh, I've never even heard of this. What is it? And then you explain it and they'll be like, oh, I think so-and-so that I know might have this, but I don't know. To me, I think with all the resources we have now, like when Google came out, I'm like, is it normal to sweat all the time? And then you kind of stumble upon some things online and you're like, oh, okay, so there are other people like me and this isn't normal.
So in terms of treatment, have you ever consulted a dermatologist for proper diagnosis and treatments? And have you ever used any topical treatments to manage excessive sweating in your focal areas?
I have never seen any medical professionals for my hyperhidrosis. Again, I didn't tell my parents when I was growing up, so I feel like I kind of missed the window of opportunity to get some kind of help. Right now, I currently don't have health insurance and I can't afford like a dermatologist visit. I have tried over-the-counter topicals. I've done I've tried Sweat Block for my underarms. That seemed to help reduce my sweating. This was a few years ago, but it was causing a lot of irritation and burning. So I eventually just stopped using it altogether. I tried like the Carpe hand lotion. I feel like it's kind of a hit or miss. Sometimes I feel like it does help reduce it more than others. Like before this interview, I was like, let me just rub some on real quick and see if it helps. And they're not as wet as they normally would be. They're still a little sweaty. And honestly, this time they're not. I did have a problem with them being really dry. It was really drying on my skin to where I was needing to apply lotion. So I felt like it was kind of counterproductive because I'm sure you know, but lotion is kind of the enemy. I try to stay as far away from that as possible. And anytime I use it, I have to wipe my hands like a million times. And then this is I don't know what this is, the dry key. I did purchase that. I think that was on Christina's page as well. So I have that. It was convenient. It came with like 5. So I keep one like almost everywhere because you can fold it up so tiny and just carry it. And sometimes I feel like just having it in one hand helps me sweat a little less. I don't know if it's a mental thing or if it actually helps, but and I've tried certain dry, but I didn't really see anything with that though. That machine you did mention, I don't know how to actually say it.
Hyperhidrosis machine.
Yes, see, I'd let you say it. I do have a friend that when I posted my story, I found out that she had hyperhidrosis in her underarms and she purchased the Dermadry machine. And she was talking to me about that, saying how it worked for her. And if I wanted to try it, that she would let me use her machine, to where it's a lot of money to spend. And I've seen people say that the machines didn't work for them or they had like a bad reaction. So I may try hers and then in the future purchase my own machine. I'm kind of hopeful about that one, since I've seen so many positive reviews. But another thing I feel like is I want to be comfortable just being me as well. So I don't mind wearing gloves. I don't mind, wearing black t-shirts. It's kind of just became the norm for me. So I'm trying to make it for my son. So it's normal. We don't have to do all of these things if we don't want to. It does help improve quality of life and help make your day-to-day easier for people. But if you can cope without it, I don't see anything wrong with dealing with your sweat and just doing the little life hacks.
Well, managing hyperhidrosis, like I've always said countless times, managing hyperhidrosis will involve a combination of different therapies. So we are looking at topical treatments, which is considered as entry-level treatments. Then you have your medical. Medical will be oral medication prescriptions, which are done by a dermatologist. And it's important, they must do a sweat background check. They can't just write a prescription for you without doing that thorough check, Also to ascertain whether your sweat is primary or secondary. There could be something causing your sweat and you may not, you don't know. There could be something causing your sweat. So apart from oral prescriptions, now you have the antiaphoresis machine treatment, which you can do it at the comfort of your own home. So you have to include all of them. And then another thing, you also need to learn your rhythm, your sweat rhythm, your sweat patterns. This approach it from a holistic point of view, a holistic perspective. What triggers your sweat? Is your anxiety situational? Because I know for most of us it's situational. Being around people or in social places. Maybe in a party, if you have a presentation, you have a job interview or a hot date. So it doesn't identify the triggers, what triggers your sweat. Then the next thing will be, how do I manage my anxiety? And for me, I learned that talking about your sweat actually does help. If you're in a place and you're with someone for the first time, and they're there and they're asking you, or rather they're stretching forth their hand to shake yours, let them know, oh, by the way, I have this condition, and so I don't want to gross your hand with my, with my sweat. And immediately they'll be interested to know, what is this hyperhidrosis? And that's an opportunity for you to also raise awareness. So you're giving them information that they didn't know. So approach it from a holistic point of view. You have your treatments, and then you also have you have your coping mechanisms. And the more you employ all these things, the more you realize that even your excessive sweating reduces. Another thing is, how do you know how to properly apply an antiperspirant? I did a video. I don't know.
I did see your video. I actually have started doing that now since I saw your video. And I actually did notice a difference. I'm sitting there and I'm like, huh. I'm like, how come I never even thought of this?
Don't worry. I was also on the same boat. I was sailing on the same boat. I didn't know how to do it. For years, I was doing it all wrong. It was up until I connected with a doctor here in Kenya by the name of Dr. Hashim. He's a professional. We met for the first time and we were just discussing hyperhidrosis, and he took me through the whole 360. And he told me, people don't know how to apply antiperspirants. And he even asked me, how do you apply? I was like, oh, easy. I just, take the can off and just, turn the wheel, push push the solid up, and then just dab up and down. It's like, you see, that's a mistake. That's not how you apply. I was confused. But that's how you apply. It's like, no. So how do you apply a moisturizer on your face? I explained, you apply, draw a pattern, and then you massage your face in circular motions or outward, depending on the way you do it. It was like, now that's what you call applying. By massaging, now you're applying so that it can completely absorb to your skin. So it's the same logic when it comes to applying an antiperspirant. You're supposed, in fact, even if you're using a gel, you're supposed to scoop that gel on your palm and then now apply on your armpits. Massage until completely absorbs. And I actually gave it a try and I saw the difference. So I was like, I can share this information with the hyperhidrosis family. And that's how I did a whole entire video. So when I was listening to you talking about, oh my God, I tried sweat block, it didn't do 1, 2, 3. I was like,
Well, yeah, I didn't even put the two together. Now I'm like, maybe I should retry it and see if it does work different.
I was like, number one, did you use the wipes on, you use sweat block wipes?
It was the wipes. I did have the wipes.
Did you use the wipes were your armpits dry or they were a bit wet? Because if your armpits are wet and you're using the wipes, you will feel that tingly effect. You have to make sure they're completely dry.
You know what? I'm going to buy another box and try it out now because, like I said, this was years ago before I learned hardly anything that was helpful towards my hyperhidrosis. So I think I might go ahead and give that another shot and see if I see any results doing it the proper way.
Exactly. We've been dabbing and we've just been dabbing and walking out of the house and going to our offices, but we've never applied. But now with this video, the video that I did, you can clearly see the difference. That once you dab, and for instance, I can see both of us. I don't know. I think you copied my blackness today,
No, I do that every day.
You invaded my closet and you're like, I believe he's going to wear black for this interview. Anyway, so if you wear black and you've just dabbed an antiperspirant, you will notice that it tends to stain your shirt or your t-shirt. But when you start following these the correct way of doing it, even after a hard day of work, or even after you doing your 9 to 5 and whatever it is that you may be doing during the day, when you look at your armpits, you won't see those whitish marks because the antiperspirant completely absorbed in. So I'm encouraging people to watch this. This content is very important.
It's funny you say that too, because like I said, after I watched your video, I did do it that way. And again, I wear black every day, so I didn't notice the white on it. And today, like I was in a rush. I woke up late, just dabbed and ran. And I have the white stuff all over my shirt still.
Which antiperspirant are you using currently?
Currently, I have I think it's the Secret Clinical Strength.
Okay.
I feel like that scent at least lasts me all day. I still sweat, but I feel like it smells pretty.
Do you apply at night or only in the morning?
I do both. I apply it at night after I shower, and then again in the morning when I'm getting dressed before work.
How do you rate the product? Is it working for you?
Like I said, I still sweat. I still sweat and everything, but I noticed the scent lasts longer. So I don't feel like halfway through the day that I can smell myself. Before, I was using Dove, just the standard normal type, and I actually still have it in my desk because I haven't gotten rid of it, but I would keep an extra roll of deodorant in my desk for when halfway through the day I would start to stink. I would reapply it. That way I didn't smell bad. But this one I don't. I just do it at night and in the morning, and I feel like the good smell lasts all day.
Does it have both properties of an antiperspirant and a deodorant, or is just a deo?
I am not sure, to be honest. Someone else that I had seen suggested it, and I tried it, and I just kind of stuck with it.
At the back of the product.
Shall I go grab it?
The upper section where have they indicated the purpose? Is the purpose antiperspirant or a deodorant?
I could grab it if you want to wait a second.
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back. Let's see. It does say antiperspirant.
Okay.
And it says reduces underarm wetness. I would say it does not reduce my wetness. It just makes me smell good all day.
And the active ingredient percentage is how many?
20%.
20%, okay. The certain dry you talked about, was it the prescription strength or?
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
This one, it just kind of burned me as well.
Again, what was your what?
Again, I'm questioning that as well.
Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to try that certain dry, because it actually has very good ratings. And for people, especially the hyperhidrosis family here in Kenya, there are those who have used that product several times. And that prompt HAK to actually avail that particular line of certain dry, because of the proven results. And you just have to apply the same.
And how would you suggest applying that?
The certain dry.
Mm-hmm.
Same process.
Rubbing it in and everything on not wet skin, not shaved skin.
All you have to do is make sure your underarms are not wet. So once you're done taking your shower, you dry your armpits.
The 2 seconds in between.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if you have to sit in front of a fan to fan yourself.
Yeah, basically.
And then now apply the certain dry. Follow the same steps. Just dab, then use your palms to apply. rub gently until it completely absorbs. Just apply at night. And then in the morning, you can use your, is it Secrets or Dove?
Secret. Okay, I'm gonna try that tonight.
Just try the Satin Dry at night, because it's a roll-on and it's in liquid form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, try that one. Try the Satin.
I will, and I'm going to let you know how it works.
That
and
one,
I'm going to buy those other products too.
That one is going to reduce your underarm wetness, and then now your Dove is going to make your underarm smell so perfecto.
Yeah, I guess that's another good thing to point out is just because you're using the products doesn't mean you're using them correctly.
Exactly. And, people tend to demonize a particular brand. Oh, it didn't work for me. So they believe it will not work for the next person, which is not true. What works for me, it's not a guarantee that it's going to work for you, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, coming across all these people, you see some people where there's just such a wide range of this excessive sweating. Some people, they sweat less. It could work a lot better for them. Different skin types, just like everything. Nothing works for everybody the same way usually.
And then again, when it comes to all these topical treatment brands, for me, I tend to do a lot of research on the top of the line brands. And one thing I found out when it comes to now people living with hyperhidrosis, these products, what determines the effectiveness of the particular product that you go for, especially a brand, the effectiveness of that topical treatment, it's entirely vested on your sweat. So is your sweat mild, excessive, or extreme? So if you have mild sweat, you don't need a product that has a higher active ingredient percentage. You need something that is in between, in the middle. So we're looking at Carpe, we're looking at Satin Dry, and other products as well. So you need to ask yourself, because you yourself, your sweat. Is your sweat mild? Most of us, our sweat is excessive, so we are directly in the middle. If your sweat now is crossing over to extreme, then we are looking at underlying medical conditions. So chances are your sweat may be more of secondary. There could be some other underlying factors that you probably don't know. So it's always important to ask yourself that question, because your sweat better than anybody else. Is it mild? Is it excessive? Is it extreme? If it is excessive, then look at some of those brands. Look at what people are saying about the brands, the ratings. If you have a friend, a neighbor, a colleague that is using some of these brands, or even go to some of these forums and just ask, what products or what brands would you recommend for someone with mild sweat, excessive, or extreme? See what people are talking about. And then also, at the end of the day, you make the decision. Do your own research as well. Don't just go by what someone else is saying. And when you're trying these products, picture yourself as a guinea pig, meaning that, one brand may not give you the results you're looking for, but the next brand will do it for you. So if one doesn't work, don't demonize the brand. It just didn't work for you. Try the next one. And, with time, you'll figure out your brand. That's why I call this SWEATUATIONSHIP a journey.
Yes, it definitely is a journey.
It's a journey for us, So we walk together. And this is the advice I give the hyperhidrosis family in Kenya and in the entire African continent, and now crossing over, to the likes of Jamie and the rest. I always tell them it's a journey. We walk together. If one brand is not working, we try another one. And I'm happy that since we started Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya in 2018, and we started availing topical treatments in 2019. For the last 2 years, in terms of topical treatments, more than 10 plus people have identified their brands, which is, I mean, this is one of the biggest progress that we've made as Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya in terms of topical treatments and also medical treatments, talking to dermatologists and, encouraging people to go for wellness checkups. It's important. Don't just sit down and conclude, I just have primary focal hyperhidrosis. Nope. How sure are you?
I'm pretty sure.
How did you conclude? So sometimes it's important. Just go for a wellness check.
Yeah, no, I know it's different for everybody.
It's good to go for a wellness checkup. You'll be surprised. The chances are there's something out there that is, it's always good. I'm encouraging people to go for wellness checkup so that if now we are dealing with primary focal, that's exactly what we're dealing with. So it's important to do. And yeah, thank you for watching that video, by the way, and I encourage you to watch more of our content.
Yes, I try to make sure. I think I see more of your guys' feed through my news feed than anything. So
oh, nice.
It helps.
And recommend as many as you can, So I have a question for you, Jamie.
Yes.
Have you ever involved yourself in any of the hyperhidrosis awareness activities? Any?
I honestly don't even know where I would begin. I've seen, I believe it was last year, you guys did some bike-a-thon or something, but
normally, annually, we do cycling event for hyperhidrosis awareness. Cycling is fun. It's fun. It's something that you sit down and, you with a couple of friends will be like, you know what, why don't we cycle tomorrow to this particular area, And it's a way of also forming a friendship and, keeping fit, that's another thing, I encourage people, it's you. Take care of you. You only have one you, so you have to take care of you.
Yes.
So cycling for me, cycling is fun. And yeah, if not for COVID, I think quite a number of you will have joined us, But hey, maybe down the line things will change, and I encourage you join in some of these activities. You know what Kristen did last year? She also cycled with I think her father and her family, some of her friends. They just mapped some few kilometers and they cycled. So yeah, I mean it's always it's fun. Just participate in some of these activities.
Aside from that one activity, how would I find others by me to participate in?
If you don't find any around your vicinity, then there's one thing you can do. Start yours.
I was waiting for that, actually.
Start yours. You have your son there with you, so maybe you can decide for Hyperhidrosis Awareness Month, which is November. Jamie and her son, they are going to do an art. Maybe you're going to draw something, and you're not going to wear your gloves. It will be you, your manila paper or that drawing pad, and your pencil. So whatever it is you're going to draw, whether you're going to smudge it with your whether you're going to smudge it with your sweat puddles, at the end of the day, you guys are going to do art, just to show people that, you know what, even with this condition, we can still achieve. So think of something. And
okay.
Think of something.
All right, I will. A good thing I got a few months to think about.
and in the same spirit, you can also invite people to join in. It could be your sister, one of your colleagues, your neighbor, or your son, one of your son's friend or friends, and just make it more of a family. You see, the thing is, every time I address the hyperhidrosis community, I tend to gravitate around family, because I don't like the term group, group dynamics and family dynamics are different. A family, we correct each other, we build each other, we provide a cornerstone and a foundation. So when you think of an event, think of it as a family event. And this is why when I came up with that, with the cycling idea was to incorporate the family, the family dynamic into it, so that if I'm on that road, it's not just Martin, it's Martin with a family. So whichever event you're going to come up with, let it have that idea of a family in it for it to be successful, for it to have an impact. Yeah, that's the word, impact. So I'll be watching. I follow you on Instagram, so I'll be. So Jamie, what would be your advice for someone out there or for people living with hyperhidrosis?
My biggest advice is you just have to get over that fear. I feel you try to hide your sweat so much that in turn you usually end up sweating even more. I think it's just very important for people to get comfortable just telling people about it. Like you said, awareness is the biggest factor. The more people that know, the more people that will be understanding of it. Especially this day and age, everybody is so accepting of everything, but they can't accept it if they don't know. Most people see it and I feel like they automatically associate it with like a hygiene problem, like, oh, they stink, or, they think negatively of it, which is why people are so afraid to tell people. But I found, at least with the people that I have told, they're all just like, oh, okay, so that's what that is with you? Okay, cool. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, I noticed you always were drying your hands off on your pants. But I mean, they didn't point out that I was always doing that when I was doing it. So I feel sometimes it bothers us more than it does bother other people. At least start with your immediate, like you said, your immediate family and others, because just having that emotional support can make a huge difference.
What would you want to tell your boyfriend and your son?
What would I want to tell them? That I love them and I appreciate everything that they do for me and how understanding and accepting they are of me.
Nice. What would be your last word?
What would be my last word?
Uh-huh.
My last word would be for you to take your step and get out there and start making everyone aware of our situation. Help spread awareness. The change can't start if you don't take that step.
And like we've always said, your story is your voice. And your story is someone else's strength. If you don't speak, someone else out there will continue having that hard time because they're tied to your story. Speak out. Don't be afraid and don't be ashamed. At the end of the day, if you don't speak out, no one else will.
Yes, I wouldn't have had the courage to speak up if I didn't come across these other stories.
Wow. Jamie, thank you very much for taking your time to have this conversation. See, I told you, it's just a conversation.
It was so much easier than I was anticipating it to be. I literally have like front and back pages written and I didn't even read off the paper at all.
Because, a conversation doesn't have to be scripted. This is just as natural as we can. It's like you're right here, but you're not here. I don't know if you.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Like you're here, but you're not here.
Yeah, we're like halfway around the world from each other, but it feels like we're just sitting here having a conversation at the table.
And it doesn't have to be scripted. Now imagine if you're seated right next to me, and then I'm like, let me get my notebook. So I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Jamie, Can you tell me, Jamie, when did your excessive sweating started? Did you start at
Well, actually,
when did you start? Oh, go ahead.
and even this is the first time we've ever spoken, and you're so easy to talk to. It's so easy to speak with people when you don't have that constant fear of worrying about them seeing you sweating or drying off your sweat. I'm pretty sure my forehead's been glistening like the whole time.
My glasses are literally falling off.
I know. I have to wear contacts because mine slide off all the time.
Well, thank you for your time. This has been a very wonderful conversation and interaction. I've enjoyed every single bit of it. Pass my love to your family, to your son, whom I know he has like 3 pages of me. He's been drawing me ever since this interview started. And you should frame that picture and send it over to me via Amazon. It needs to be, the pictured frame should be in Kenya in the next 3 weeks. So I'm waiting.
I will get that over to you.
Thank you for your time. And sweat with a puddle.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.